Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name's Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Poor Brian was all by his lonesome last week.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I know, folks, we've been a little bit wonky with our time frame lately, but life has been lifing, I think, all three of us in different ways over the last month or two. So we apologize for not being as consistent as we like to be. But with that being said, who wants to kick us off and let us know what's going on in their lives?
Well, I mean, I was here last week. So I feel like you both have to go at the same time. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go first. So still waiting on my sleep study. I'm really frustrated about this whole thing.
Have you done it and you're waiting on results, or you're waiting for it to happen? Okay.
I'm waiting for it to come. And finally, so a month ago, I had my appointment with the doctor. And the doctor took my information. It's like, I'm ordering the at-home sleep study. It'll be sent to you. You do it. You send it back. I'm like, okay, great. She's like, if you don't hear about it in a week or two, call. I'm like, okay, no problem. I got this. 2 weeks go by. I call her office. I leave a message for the girl that's supposed to be doing it for me. She doesn't call me back. A couple days later, I call again. Like, she's going to call you back. And I'm like, You said that last time and she didn't. So please make sure she calls me back. Great. Calls me back. We talk and she's like, oh, okay, let me get in contact with my person and get one sent out to you. I'm like, okay, great. Week and a half goes by. Don't hear anything. I'm like, great. I'm just about to call the doctor's office when I get a text message from the company asking for my information so they can ship out the test.
I'm just waiting for you to like open your door someday and there's like 5 of them sitting out.
I'm like, fine. So supposedly in the next 3 to 5 business days, I should be getting a test kit. And then I have to do it for 1 to 3 nights. And then I have to ship it back to them within 7 days. So it'll be interesting because they asked me what my neck size was. So I'm curious what this whole thing is going to entail. But I will let you guys know when it happens. But I know there's an oxygen sensor I have to wear, and there's some electrodes that I have to put on, or straps at least I have to put around my chest, so that it can measure my heart and all this other stuff. So,
All right.
So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
And what else has been going on? Work is going well. It's getting busier. It's interesting because we're coming into our season now, and there's still no word of us going back in the office.
Right.
I'm kind of at a mixed feelings about the whole thing because I love working from home. I didn't think I would, but now that I've been doing it for going on a year now, I've kind of grown accustomed to it. Not so much looking forward to going back in the office.
Yeah.
But I'm still not 100% sure if working from home is the healthiest of situations mentally for me. Just because I don't have the interaction, the getting out in the world, in the public, and, doing all that stuff.
Right.
So, like I said, I think I mentioned it before on the podcast because, my doctor and I have already had that conversation. I've had it with both doctors. We have a plan in place. So when I do go back in the office, if I need a little extra help, that we already have an idea of maybe switching up the meds a little bit or adding a little extra to get me over any anxiety or any hill that I may come across. So I think I'm in a good spot as far as that's concerned. I'm trying to be as proactive as I possibly can, so that I don't get myself into a hole that is harder to get out of.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting trying to figure that out. But they have absolutely no idea when they're going to require us to go back in the office. Kind of hope never, kind of hope not.
Yeah.
But it's tough. I don't know kind of what, maybe a mixed schedule. Maybe that's the best thing for me, is if I can have my druthers, if I have a choice, to do a couple of days at home, a couple of days in the office. So this may not be too bad.
Yeah.
And then what else has been going on? This has been a last couple weeks of a lesson in understanding and listening, which are not necessarily, rough spots for me, but I think we all can use opportunities to better our listening skills and our understanding skills. And I've really been, we are currently renovating our living room and taking two people with two very different styles and different aesthetic choices and trying to blend them together is difficult even at the best of times, trying to make it all work. So it's really been a challenge for me to just realize how I can listen better, how I can adapt better, how I can really be mindful. I guess that's the best word for it, is just be mindful of the word choices I make, the decisions I make, and really try to be respectful and understanding of somebody else's position. Because it can be very difficult when you have your mindset a certain way and they have their mindset a certain way, and trying to find the balance between the two.
Yeah.
Because I think we've even had shows and talked about compromise, and sometimes compromise is no one wins.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult.
Mhm.
It's like, because everybody wants to win. And compromise, I choose to see compromise as everybody wins, but I also get the fact that compromise is also no one's winning.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of, and not a whole lot of craziness going on, but enough to definitely make the last couple weeks interesting, that's for sure. Oh, that's the other thing. So, since we last talked, we had to clean out my late brother-in-law's condo.
Mhm.
So we ended up going there and taking care of that, and finally put that to rest. So that's done now. Now we have just a bunch of his stuff in our barn that we have to go through, and it's rough, man.
Mhm.
It's like when you take a look at someone's life, basically down to their possessions, it gets tough. And there's a lot of personal notes and stuff, and from a girl that was not healthy for him, and it's really hard to see.
Oh yeah.
So, and some bad decisions that he made. And then you see other things like glimmers of good decisions that he was trying to make, and he just couldn't follow through enough with them. And
Yeah.
so it was rough, but we made it through, and we got through it together, and we had a bunch of, and I've got to watch myself. I don't know if you guys do this, but we had a bunch of younger people, like in their early 20s, helping us, thankfully, because there was 3 sets of stairs that had to go up and down.
Sweet, had them young knees and backs. Yeah.
So I had to fight so hard not to keep calling them kids.
Yeah. Oh, see, I just call everyone kids, so it's not a big deal to me.
And youngins.
Yeah.
I did make, and I swear I was the quintessential old person, because like there was Tide Pods sitting on the table. So of course I had to make the comment of, all right, guys, these are not to be eaten.
Right.
Of course, right. Because I'm so funny and witty. Nobody's made that joke before.
Right.
No.
Nope.
But they thankfully graciously laughed at me, and and it's like, oh, that old person. All right, we can deal with her.
Yeah.
But
Oh my.
so it was fun though. It was really good to kind of see them and get to know some of the friends and stuff. Some good kids. I hate to say the word, but they're kids. They're youngins.
Yeah.
Wee little ones. But so we did that, and then my father-in-law was staying with us, so he stayed with us all last weekend to wrap up some paperwork end of my late brother-in-law's stuff. So some legal stuff and finishing all of that up. So I hope we're done. Just kind of buttonhole it and ready to move on the best we can at this point. It's going to be a year, June 30th. So we're at 9 months or something like that.
Right.
And then my stepfather passed away May 12th of last year.
Right.
So we're going to be coming up on a year soon. Yeah. And my mom's making some plans she's going to plant a tree at a local park in his honor. And we're going to have like a little get together, just kind of since we couldn't when it happened because we were in the middle of all the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So we had a Zoom funeral. So we're going to have a kind of an in-person with just a few key people. They'll get together at my mom's place. She's kind of putting that together.
Oh, okay.
It's almost surreal. It truly does. It almost feels like last year was so insane that it wasn't real, that it was just this wicked bad dream. Sorry. That would be Otis.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it just kind of feels like last year was just kind of crazy dream. But this year so far, things have been better. And like I said, just kind of trying to wrap all the little stuff up, just to kind of make things as better as possible.
Right.
So I don't know. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Let's see what happened. Oh, I went to the eye doctor.
Yeah.
It was my first time so I went last year, like right before our shutdowns up here.
Okay.
So it was kind of it was like I picked up my contacts last year after the shutdown, and it was really like, whoops, my order had gotten mixed up, and something didn't get ordered and that kind of stuff. So I was kind of reminiscing on it. Interesting thing happened. I had a great visit. At one point, I like my eye doctor. He's willing to take a little time and talk and whatnot, and so we're catching up, and he's got a good bedside manner, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But he says at one point, he's like, so you got a little bit of this ring thing around your cornea, which is indicative of high cholesterol. I'm like, not surprising.
Yeah.
Like, haven't seen the inside of a gym in probably 6 months.
Sure you have.
I eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's good or bad.
Right.
No, you're right. I have seen the inside of the gym as I walk through to change out the air filters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just haven't worked out aside from walking across with the air filters.
Exactly. So yeah, that didn't surprise me. I'm just like, I'm just gonna get back into it. So we decided to go to Jamaica in May and keep that booking. And I booked the airfare, which was awesome. I ended up saving $10 and getting everything upgraded to Comfort Plus on Delta. So I was like, sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was interesting. I'm like, I can book every seat on here. What's going on? And as I realized that on April 1st is when they end the no aisle seat thing, which, not like I keep track of when the airlines do it, but it was just one of those kind of interesting things. And so that's why I was kind of glad we're in Comfort, just less people. Jamaica changed their rules to, you have to have a negative test within 3 days of flying, which makes way more sense, because before it was 10 days, which you might as well have just not done it at that point.
Seriously, right.
Yeah, it was kind of odd.
Yeah.
But I actually rehearsed last night. My hand feels way better. The tendonitis has gone down enough where I was able to practice a little bit this week and get kind of ready. And we had a really fun rehearsal. It was nice. And
Good.
And what's hanging up on the album a little bit is there's a few things for me. Definitely some songs I need to drums I need to edit, and then I have just all my background vocals to do. But a big part of it is our other guitar player, and we were kind of hitting it's been a great lesson in patience and also gratitude for a group of people that are understanding of others and not putting pressure on other people, and that, everything will be done in its time, and allowing space for things to just kind of happen when they need to happen. And we've had some little breakthroughs lately as far as these last couple little hang-ups. And it's so great it feels good to, especially in a group, because, I mean, I've been through every drama you could possibly have in a band. And to come out on the other side feeling like when this is all said and done, everyone acted, with grace and respect and dignity. And it didn't matter that it took longer than we thought it was going to, and that the frustrations, nobody lost their cool with it, which
or quit the band
really
or anything. Yeah,
yeah, it really is. Because I was talking to an old bandmate of mine, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I'm done playing live," and I'm like, "Really?" Because it's like a huge part of his income. He's like, "I just can't do the band thing anymore and the personalities," and I'm like, "Yeah, I get you. Like I'm pretty lucky where I'm at right now. We just." For the most part, everything's good, and to be around people that have that level of understanding is really nice. And then where I need to work on that is in my personal relationships. Not work has been great. It was amazing. We've had some stuff going on at work, not having anything to do with me or our maintenance department, but with our housekeeping, and to see somebody really struggling with that whole thing of like, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And knowing that they're right in what they're doing, and yet noticing that on our side of the office, in our maintenance side, we're firing on all cylinders and the attitude feels good. And the pressure has dropped so much. And I'm continuing to just say it over and over again about how much I'm enjoying being at work.
Yeah.
After years and years and years of just it being the main point of stress in my life, and to have it gone is unbelievable. And then to see another coworker going through a difficult time because of our general manager, who's going to be gone in a couple of months, and it's one of those things where it's like, all right, yeah, it's not right, but just let it go. He's going to be gone, and when he's gone, you can do whatever you want. And that whole thing of restraint of tongue and pen, and we'd all rather see our coworker be happy in his usual self. But the thing about it is the general manager keeps putting his freaking foot in his mouth on stuff. Like, it's unbelievable. We're just when it's like, okay, I'm going to let this go. He says something where I'm like, okay, that's illegal.
Yeah.
like I was like, we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
We're just going to let this go because he's a lame duck and he's going to be gone in a couple of months. And when he's gone, we can do anything like we want. And it's like, you just completely violated the law by saying what you just said. It's like, but at the end, it goes back to that same thing. And so bringing this back around I was a little surprised to when Sharon and I were talking about she's doing some medical stuff, and I kind of lost it, and just I can't tell you why. I felt frustrated for her, I guess. So it's kind of weird that then I get riled up, I guess would be a way to say it. And maybe it's just because I tend to stay out of it. And so when all of a sudden it comes to, kind of comes to my door, I don't have good perspective on it. And I didn't. It really wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
And luckily I had a chance nowadays health stuff ties in with money, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
And it was another one of these weeks where it's like, we'd be better off divorced, and that sucks.
Yeah. You're meaning financially, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted clarification there.
Yeah. And it just sucks that's the way it has to be.
Yeah.
And it sucks that this has to be an issue at all, where what's great is, by the time phone calls were made and enough time went by and the right appointments were made and this and that, we got to a point where it's like, okay, focus on the healthcare. Don't worry about the health insurance.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the money. Let's focus on that. And it's the right place to be.
Yeah.
But the journey was like, okay, I need to learn to do things better. And kind of, I guess, not so much a win, but it just like it feels good to come out of these things feeling like there's better communication.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's the key. And then, because for myself, my tooth pull happens on Wednesday. And this cut back to work thing. I was, looked at my boss in the morning, and vacations are being planned, and this was great. Me and Omar and Antonio all put our heads together. Okay, who's covering for who? When are you going on vacation? We all figured it all out. Let James know, and I said, I'm kind of thinking I'm not going to come to work on Wednesday, and I'm like, and I might be, I've never had. I remember having my wisdom teeth pulled out, and I was not happy for days. So I'm like, I'm thinking I'm going to take 2 days off, and then it's my birthday on Friday. So I was like, hey, long weekend, and Sharon was great. She's like, hey, what do you say we go to the the hot springs? They've got these cute little cabins. Or we can bring the dogs with us. I was like, awesome,
Yeah.
So we're going to go out and do that. And I called my mom and told her, hey, we're going to Jamaica, so I'm probably not going to come back to for California, but I still have some money left over, for some credit on Delta. It's like maybe I can do a long weekend in the summertime.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I always talk about how I have a difficult times when things are hanging out there, and so it's been a nice couple weeks to conclude some things.
Yeah.
Like, okay, eye appointment. It's going to, it costs some money, but I'm going to have new contact lenses and new, glasses. And then this tooth thing is going to I'm starting on the path to getting this done. And the getting back together, getting and playing music got me a little bit inspired to get back into doing what I need to do to finish this thing. And it's kind of, it's very perfect because the weather's gotten better, and it feels like the snow is melting, and it feels like we're transitioning into spring, and I feel like everything's being set up right, and now I just need to get my butt somehow into some cardio and not end up with high cholesterol.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's so funny.
Well, think of it this way, right? You've got it lined up for Jamaica, like. Maybe you got to pull that move is the you got to get your bikini body ready for Jamaica.
It is.
So
that's kind of where I'm looking at it. I'm doing the old, using the trip as a motivator. But in a lot of ways, a lot of things are quote unquote coming together, except the couch, which still has not arrived.
That's crazy.
And that's really frustrating. I've just been pausing on that one too, sending the email and saying, okay, now it's 6 months.
Yeah.
All right, what are we doing? Are we going for 7 or 8?
Right.
In the meantime, loving being Benny is just awesome. The development is really just remarkable about all of a sudden he just learned something and it's when I got together with the band last night, like, hey, what have you been doing? I'm like, I've done a lot of nothing except focus on the dog, and it was kind of cool how they're like, oh yeah, well that's what you got to do. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like they have kids. I mean, they have pets too, but
right.
They have kids, and I don't, but they don't hold it against me, and they know that to me, my pooch is right. Like my kid, and. They treat me the same way. I'm like, I'm just putting everything I can into this little guy's development,
Yeah, and this, exactly. I was going to say, and at this stage, it's important because much like a baby, you kind of need to be part of his development so that down the road you won't have to,
correct things.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, and I get to see where the source of right, where things go right and where things go wrong.
Yeah.
But if I were to look at one thing over the last couple of weeks that's kind of been a common theme is the gratitude for having good communication and being able to, especially in my relationships, whether it's work or at home, being able to talk things out, being able to bring the experience. A lot of it comes back to what we talk about here on this podcast, and having a chance to put it into practice. It's one thing to read all these articles that we discuss here, but it's another thing to then, I talk about this with, my men's group is, we can share all we want in this little group, but where the rubber hits the road is within our relationships out there in the world. Mm-hmm. It's who we are when we walk into the grocery store or when we walk into work. And more importantly, when we come home from work and we're tired and hungry and all that kind of stuff. And it's for me, I like ending my week on the up note, even though, there's some little rough spots there. It's like, okay, yeah, but we learned and we moved forward and we ended the week feeling positive and ready for next week. And that's good. And then lastly, I was listening to you do your solo podcast, which I just absolutely love, Brian. I liked how you talked about, we'll be back next week and have our positive spin on things. That we don't want to make this about that it's always a downer, but I really, really appreciated your honesty. And it's one of the reasons I was looking forward to podcasting this week is, to hear how you're doing and also to do that, bring that positivity again, because sometimes it's wherever you can find it.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that was the thing is, as I mentioned on that one and stuff, it's been really hard for me to find the last few weeks. I have just not cared about anything, honestly. Like, I'm very much like when we were kind of like, hey, we can't do the podcast tonight. And I'm like, cool, and I've never been that, I don't like when we can't put a show up. I don't like moving shows around because, when we start putting like, okay, let's do it in a couple days. It's like, well, then if something comes up, it's like our window's getting shorter and shorter, so I've never liked that, but it happens, and that's just life. And, same with Tony and I on Salty Language. Sometimes we got to move our recording day around. And when that happens, it's like, well, whatever, but also I just haven't cared that much, honestly, and like I said, that's not like me. So these things, that have popped up as I talked about in there, it's like I'm noticing stuff that's like, hey, these, one of the major symptoms of depression is losing, interest and enjoyment in things you previously loved and, liked and enjoyed. Mm. And here we were, so it was, it was really, it's always a weird thing to where it's always there, the depression's always there, but it's very strange when it like really shows its face to where it's like, oh yeah, all these symptoms, like all the ones you see on the, anytime there's a commercial on TV or whatever, and you're just like, yep, and it's one of those that like when you first go into the doctor, they have, they have the evaluation, and a lot of times, that you fill out yourself, and they'll have, a certain, like if you're over a certain number, they're like, do you need to speak to a mental health person kind of a situation, and it's like, if I were filling one of those out right now, my number would have been crazy high. And, so again, it's, I put the phone calls in, I got to wait until I still don't have a psychiatrist, which sucks, but, they still haven't gotten that position filled yet. So they're supposed to call me when they do, but I'm going to keep calling them because they've not been great at phone calls sometimes. So
good to stay on top.
But in the meantime, I can talk with my primary care doctor and my therapist. And, the only thing that stinks is it's where I'm at right now, might be time to talk about my medicine and stuff. And my primary care doctor is not, he's more the type to be like, you should go talk to a psychiatrist, because that's their specialty. That's what they're there for. So it stinks that what I might actually really need right now is not, as available. So, if nothing else, I might ask them, hey, is there somewhere you can refer me to even for one visit or something like that, just so I can make sure. Well, 2 visits, because, the first one's going to be them just asking a lot about you. But it stinks I can't just, like, go back to that guy that I was part of that study, that I can't just go back to him because he already has, already knows my case file a little bit or could access it easily enough, But whatever, it's unfortunately the timing's just bad, But if I can, I think therapy would help me a little bit. Our weather has been, the last couple of days it's kind of gone back to normal, but we had a couple of days where it was like in the high 50s or 60s. The sun was out, and I was out for a little while. When was it? Day before yesterday? Yeah, because I had to go. I went and got. I haven't had my testosterone shots in a while. I finally went up and got one of those because I'm sure that should help as well, because I generally feel better when I have those, and having had that, I can feel a difference. I feel a marked difference in how I was till today. I'm still lethargic. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I could probably go in and go to bed right now. And, anyone who knows me knows that is not normal for me. We're recording at 9:25 p.m. That's about the halfway point of my day usually. Like, usually when we're done recording this, I'll say, and Heno can back me up, I'll be like, time for me to have lunch,
Yeah.
So, for me to be asleep, there's been quite a few nights where I'm asleep by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. And it would be great if I would sleep like, oh man, he's exhausted, so kaboom, he gets that great night's sleep. Nah, it's so fast. Still doing the, I'll wake up partway through and then I can't get back to sleep. It's just like if I laid down for a nap is what the equivalent of it. I wake up and I'm like I literally could just get up. I'm like, okay. And then it's like, but then I'm like, actually I'm still, I'm going to try to go back to sleep, and then it doesn't work. And then, the anxiety starts. So it's like, well, I got to turn the TV on, or I got to read books or something, so it stinks that it kind of starts those cycles back up. But, like I said, hopefully the testosterone will help, and the sunny weather. We're supposed to have it's supposed to be in the 70s next week here. So hopefully, the sun, the warmth, because I was telling Tony, I said, I think in a lot of ways, I've talked with a lot of people that have depression, and a lot of them seem to be having a real bad go right now. And obviously, we've got the weight of the coronavirus stuff on top of us, our financials, our normal life stuff too. But I think some of it has to do with essentially like a spring fever thing. That it's like, okay, let's get, like when you live, especially in this area, it's like, oh, we're so close to those sunny days and warm and back to where it's like, this is pleasant to be in. Like, it gives you something, because, obviously the sun gives you vitamin D and all that, So I think a lot of us might, like, once that hits, I think a lot of us might start perking up a little bit. I'm not saying that's the cure-all, but I think that'll certainly help a little bit, Superman's got to get in the sun to have energy, That's just how it is. So, yeah, I definitely feel better. I went out with Tony the other night, and, we just had a time as we do when we're together, and, had a couple beers and some really good pizza, and it was exactly what I think, one of the things I exactly needed, because we haven't done that in a while. I haven't really been going out with anybody in a while, so I think that was something I needed, and, I think it really comes back to the, like the hierarchy of needs kind of thing, like, am I getting the things I really need at my core for my, self-care, really, like, what are the, like, really core things we need? And I think when I was looking at that, it's like, no, I'm not getting those things. So, I don't think it's any one thing necessarily, but, when you have that perfect storm of bleh, it hits hard. And I'm not going to lie, this has been a bad cycle for me. And it's weird that I caught it in the middle of it. As we've talked on here plenty of times, normally, and I said last week, normally I don't catch this until I'm on the other side of it. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? And this time I've noticed it. I think it's because it's been so much stronger this time. Whereas normally it might be a little more subtle and kind of under the radar. But yeah. And I went to the store today, and that was actually a fine experience. I saw an older woman struggling mightily trying to lift a 24-pack of Coke into her cart because she's not very tall. And a 24-pack of Coke is probably heavy for a woman that looked like in her 80s, you know? And I was looking at it going, yeah, the way those are designed, there's nowhere good for her to put that. Because to bend down might be a problem for her, to put it underneath the basket, or to lift it all the way up and over into the basket, you know, could be a problem. And, you know, I went over and I was like, here, let me help you. No, I got it, you know, and I'm like, just let me, help you. Okay. And
that's awesome.
It's like, lady, you're struggling. I can just right in the cart and we're done, you know, so.
That's great.
Yeah. But again, like you said a few weeks ago about, you know, helping that one woman, it was like, I know with coronavirus, we're not supposed to get close to one another. And I will say this, as I had, you know, because I stood there for a minute and I said, let me help you. And then she took a few steps back. I put it in the cart and then basically I stepped back and, you know, stuff. So we tried to still, you know, observe, you know, distancing and stuff. But it was, I was just like, I'm just going to do this. It's just the right thing to do. You know, I just, you know, and it didn't hurt me at all to do it. You know, I do it for anybody. I don't care what their age or whatever or situation is. If someone was like, hey, can you help me with this? Yeah, sure. You know, I mean, it's different if it's something, you know, like, hey, can you help me with this 700-pound bag or something? And I'm like, no. Let me go get someone.
I had that same lady again. She pulled up in front of the health club, and it was the same deal. She was in the back trying to get her walker out. Oh, and I mean, it was icy everywhere, and it just felt so good again to just say, hey, let me help you out here. Let's, you know.
She's like, are you following me?
Yeah, exactly. I pulled the thing out. And then the fun part was, and then because she pulled up in the circle and, you know, she wanted to get the car in the handicap. I'm like, oh, do I need to move your car? She's like, oh, I'll get them to do it on the inside. You know, one of the front desk people come on, move on. I'm like, no, I got it. No problem. You know, and got her to the sidewalk. She started moving along just fine. I jumped in the car, moved it, and it just felt good. And this time, one of the health club employees came out and was, you know, and she asked who's in the car, and oh, this nice man's helping me, and they're like, oh, that's Henno, you know, and it's like, okay, cool, I got a little recognition, you know,
as you just sped off with her car,
exactly. I'm like, I'm out.
Nice.
I've wanted an 86 Grand Marquis for years. I don't even know if they still made them in 86.
and again, it was that thing where you could just tell she wanted to be so self-deprecating, and it was that same thing. It's like, hey, it's just your challenge today. That's all.
Yeah, right.
It's not you. It's nothing wrong with you personally. This is just your challenge this week.
Yep.
And that's been like kind of a theme that's kind of run through a lot of my, you know, things that have happened. Is again that idea of like, these things aren't personal. There's just something we need to go through.
Yeah. Well, and like we've talked before, right? Like sometimes you're just right where you're supposed to be. And that's kind of those type of moments where you're just like, you know, like, hey, maybe I was supposed to cross paths with her just because she was going to struggle. And here you go. I can help you out. And it's 2 minutes out of my day that I do not mind giving to somebody or whatever, you know, because I'm, you know, like you said, it makes you feel good. And, you know, in the long run that, you know, they don't have to, you know, someone doesn't have to struggle with something. It's just a nice... I'm always glad when I see people do that. And I'm still seeing people do this stuff even with coronavirus where, you know, they'll help them with different stuff, you know, and, you know, it always warms you up a little bit when you see that people are still like, hey, sometimes people still need help, you know?
Well, and also that what's great is in both of our cases, even though the people at first maybe said, oh, no, I don't want it, they eventually allowed us to be of service, right? Yeah. And like I have a friend that's been struggling with some surgery things, and we were texting back and forth, and she said this interesting thing of which is, I'm tired of people feeling sorry for me.
That's understandable.
And I said, but I knew that's not what she was saying.
Yeah.
It was just she was tired of people looking out for her. And I was like, well, if you can, let them, because they want to be of service for you.
Yeah. Well,
let people be there for you. It makes them feel good too.
My mom and I were talking about that a little bit today, because she made a comment that back when she was, still going into stores and stuff before all of this, that there'd be times where she would just go by herself to the store, and she'd go to get like a 32 pack of water, and somebody would, oh, here, let me help you, and she's like, I can get it, and all this stuff, and she's like, but I just let them, because for that reason, like, it's just they're wanting to help, so I'll just let them. And I was like, you can, but just because you can do something, if someone's willing to help you and it makes it easier, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with accepting help in that scenario either. That's kind of how I've always seen it. Because it is somebody coming from, they're not trying to put you down or go, oh, you're weak. They see you and they go, oh, they need some help, and they're just they're coming at it with best intentions. So it's I like to, I don't know how to word it, but it's like you like to reward somebody who is willing to do that, because you want people to continue to do that. I'm, like I said, I'm glad to see people are still doing that, even though we're supposed to stay back and we're not supposed to like touch each other or anything like that. But if somebody's struggling with something, it's like, hey, let me help you with that, and it's cool. I'm glad people are still doing that stuff. So yeah, that was about it though. I did. It was funny though. I did have to pull a 6 feet Harold kind of moment, because I'm in line. I'm standing back from the person in front of me, who while I'm waiting, this guy comes walking up. I mean, he is like breathing on my neck almost. And I turned around and I was like, could you, because I'm forgetting coronavirus. He was too close. In general, yeah, it's like, yo, give me a couple feet, bro. Like I feel like you're gonna try sneaking your food onto the thing. Like that's how close he was. Like he's just gonna like toss his on there and see if he can duck behind me or something. And I was like, can you just, I said, we're supposed to, oh yeah. He moved back. No big deal. It was just, I said, thank you. And he's like, oh, no problem. He's like, it's easy to forget. And I'm like, it is at the grocery store. It is easy to not stand feet back. We're also used, especially when people have like full carts, you want to like try to get through so everyone else can get through. But it's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to stand, way back here and be in the way. But yeah, that's fine. But I'm fine with saying stuff like that to people, because it just, like I said, it just made me uncomfortable anyway. I'm standing there and I'm like, I'm like, my skin was crawling because he's so close, I was like, dude, I just give me a couple feet at least. I wouldn't have as much of a problem. But whatever. Wasn't a big deal. He was nice. That's all, because I wasn't like, hey, back up, like, or just shove him or something, Can you just back up a little bit? You're making me a little uncomfortable. Oh yeah, no problem. So whatever. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically been my week. Although, this I thought was interesting. Well, I was at the urologist to get my testosterone shot. The nurse there was telling me that they've been seeing a huge uptick in older women coming in saying that they have UTI. And then when they get in there, the women are basically like have no symptoms. And she's like, I think people are just trying to get out of the house. And they know you can kind of, like with a UTI, you should go get it treated. You have to go to the doctor. They run a test, whatever, and then they'll treat you. So they know if they go in, they're at least going to get a few minutes with a nurse, a few minutes with a doctor, kind of a situation. And she's like, I wish we could find something else for them to do, because it's, literally wasting their time, But she's like, I think what's happening is it's that, and it's just like people are sitting home by themselves and they just start thinking they have everything, you know, because so many people are, you know, it's easy to do. While I was at the store today, the grocery store I go to at the pharmacy, they're doing COVID vaccinations, and I watched a woman get one, and she was sitting there, and about 5 minutes in, she turns to her friend, and she's like, "I'm starting to feel sick already," and I'm like. You know, could you be? Yes, but most likely, no, that's probably most likely in your head, you know.
A placebo effect.
Right, and it was her first shot. If it was her second shot, you know, that's usually the one where people feel a little wonky, you know. But even then, it's usually, you know, I don't think it's usually 5 minutes. But, you know, whatever, maybe it was, I don't know. But I think that's one of those where I think she kind of psyched herself up on it a little bit, and, you know. It is too bad that the, you know, isolation it's easy for someone to do that. You know, it really is easy for paranoia and just focusing on whatever might be bothering you. You know, maybe like you have arthritis that every day of your life for the last 5 years you've been dealing with. It's whatever. You're a little stiff in the morning, but you're fine. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't even get out of my chair type arthritis, you know, because you're just laser focused on that. You know, instead of normally you might move around and ignore it a little more. So, or like, you know, I said about depression, same kind of thing. I think it's easy to really focus on negative, so it's easy to fall into those pits. But yeah, so anyway, I believe that's my week. I can't think of anything else.
Nice. Well, how are you doing, guys? Do we want to go into something else, or do we want to wrap it up today?
Well, we're at 51 minutes, so it's your call.
Yeah, we probably should wrap it up. We just had a good old-fashioned chat session today, and we'll bring something fun and new for you next week. So, you know what time it is, folks. If you'd like to continue the conversation, and you know you do, we covered a lot of ground this week, so you can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.net.com, is our website. If you'd like to reach me and have a conversation with me direct, feel free to reach out to me on the Twitters. I'm there as Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And Hannah, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno. Find me on Facebook and Facebook Messenger, Heno. Instagram. And you can check out my other podcast, Moving the Needle, where we talk about television and film. And our latest that is still up there is 30 going on 13 versus Big. But this coming week, we are going to be releasing... Wow, I'm having a complete brain lapse on it's Peter Sellers movie from 1979, and it was really freaking cool, and I loved it. I'm just Being There. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to check out the podcast, Being There, I think it was on HBO, but it was a real treat. It was great to watch. I'd never seen it. Sean obviously had, so had Joe. Roy hadn't. But it was fun to see a movie that had a theme that has been done a couple different ways since that year, but to really be surprised and pleasantly surprised of a movie that is, 40 years old.
Yeah.
That still has the, some older style and some different feel. And so if you want to check, watch that and then join us and hear our thoughts. It was kind of fun. I hope we get to do more like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. You're right. It is tough. It's always one of the hard things about going back to watch a movie when, like you said, if there's been like a bunch of movies where they use that to where it's become a trope even or whatever.
Yes.
Where you go back and remember. It's, like I remember you guys were talking something about this like with like Airplane. Like the style of movie that it was. There's been other movies that have tried to do the same thing, but you have to go back and remember this was, like the first one that was doing it that way at the time. So it can be tough for us to go back and remember that because a lot of times we're like, oh, we've seen 20 movies like this, and you're like, no. This though was maybe before a lot of those. So yeah,
and to get the perspective again of how film has changed a lot, and like pacing and timing and things like that, and sometimes we look at something old and we go, oh, it's old and it's not as good, but it's like, well, maybe it is.
But it's why, like, my mom will watch a lot of like old movies, and a lot of them are, like the ones from the era where all the guys talk like this, see, and they talked really fast, and the dames went, man, and the guy went, yeah, and it's just boom, 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 boom with the cadence, and I'm like, I can't stand this. And it was the same, and then I was like, what's funny about that is that was part of the reason I couldn't stand a lot of Joss Whedon written stuff. Because the way he writes, to me, hits my ear the same way, to where it's just like, and I hate movies to where as soon as one person says something, there's like, comment. It's like, there's no pause here, ever. Everyone's already got their witty retorts lined up. It's like, this is annoying and not how life works. So, and back in the other movies, it was just like, they're just, it's just too much dialogue. It just rapid fire dialogue. So, stuff like that, I'm like, I can't take this. Like, this is just annoying to me. So, that's why, like, old movies, like, where they were doing, how it is, like, those actors would work for, like, one company and do, like, 40 movies a year, basically, because that's just how they did things then. And and then you watch two in a row and you're like, this is the same movie. And you're like, oh, wait, no, it isn't. But I just can't get past the dialogue to actually pay attention to the story, because it sounds the same as the movie I just watched. Like, I need some different pacing and whatever. So, yeah, I hear you. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language on Twitter, or at saltylanguage.com. We just released our 499th episode, and
wow,
we'll be doing episode 500 this coming week. And that's a lot.
It's a ton.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is show 291 for us, so we are very close to 300 here as well. So we're moving on the level 2. But anyway, we talked about a lot of stuff this week. We talked about making all this noise. We talked about, like, the Mr. Potato Head stuff, the Twitter maybe offering a premium level, Magic stuff, Pokemon and sports cards, and how crazy they've gotten, and just all sorts of stuff like that. So if you're into that, please check us out. Show's not safe for work, so please, earbuds in, or keep the children's away, because probably not for them. In fact, there's no probably about it. It is not for the kids.
You never know.
Yeah. Unless it's by Jen's definitions of kids, where they're like 26.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jen's children.
Yeah.
Well,
you can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which is becoming even more than the Tangent Bound Network, because he's going to start having like different types of media and shows, like YouTube shows and radio shows and all this other kind of stuff. So if you're interested in creating a show of some sort, hit up Mark at tangentboundnetwork.com, and actually I think it's Jordan, but anyway, just email them off their website, and because they can help you get going with whatever you're trying to do. Yeah. So if you need help, please reach out. Please reach out to your friends to see how they're doing. And of course, as I said at the very end, I believe, of last week, which was, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And yeah, I think that's it from me.
Fair enough. All right, folks, go out there, have the best week you possibly can. And remember, spread the love, not the COVID, and wiggle those toes.